I'm curious of your thoughts. I know you were already texting me before the Lions game even happened that you were not happy with the first game. We technically have two games to talk about. I know that game didn't end well, but I felt like the game as a whole wasn't too bad. But then Minnesota obviously didn't have a great game last week. I kind of thought that was more the strength of Minnesota, and then they lost to Atlanta last night here, and McCarthy got hurt, and they're looking to be maybe in rough shape here. But I'm curious what you thought of the Bears' performance, if there was any kind of positive takeaways that you had, and what you had on the Lions too, because you've got a good eye for football, and obviously they did have a good game. So I'm curious what stuck out to you there too.
Yeah, there's not a lot of big positives for the Bears coming out of yesterday. No big surprise there. I think the single thing that stood out the most to me was the play of the Bears' interior defensive line against the Lions' interior offensive line. I think if you recall, and we talked about this last week, the Bears really eschewed the edge rusher position in the offseason and instead said, we're going to really try to hammer the interior of our defensive line, to throw assets at that group and try to make noise in the middle of the pocket, make quarterbacks uncomfortable, get them moving laterally in the backfield, and that's going to get them off their spot. And once they're off their spot, most quarterbacks get a lot worse. Jared Goff did not get knocked off his spot. I think there was one play where he actually had to move yesterday, and that's just a massive, massive win for the Lions. I don't know if it says more about what Grady Jarrett and Andrew Billings and Jervon Dexter and Chris Williams were able to do for the Bears, or if it says more about the massive improvement that Christian Mahogany, Graham Glasgow, and Tate Ratledge had in the middle of the Lions line. But if I was a Lions fan, I'd be exhaling a huge sigh of relief. This is not going to be a position area. It's kind of a larger group to talk about the interior offensive line together. That position group isn't going to torpedo the season. And I think that was, from a more analytical standpoint, that's probably the main takeaway. After that, it's just, oh my God, 52 points.
Yeah.
Elaine's sad too. She's like not even wanting to be on the mic, I feel like right now here.
I drank too much Kool-Aid. I just thought that this game would go into overtime. I was really hoping for a tie. I was like, it's fine. They're on the same playing field. And I don't know.
Wait, who hopes for a tie? That seems...
Well, I wasn't hoping for... I love a tie.
That's a good summation of where the Bears fan base is, going into games hoping for ties. That's a nice ceiling to put on us.
I mean, I think more people would have loved the Cowboys in America if they had just taken a knee with those 3 seconds left this pass.
Nobody loves the Cowboys. Be quiet.
Well, Rob, did you play for Coach Verdun in high school?
I did not.
Okay, so he must have been out by the time you were there. He had some feelings about ties that I was gonna remind you of, but I think Big G had a comment for you.
Yeah, Rob, this is George or Big G. Did it look to you, because it looked a lot to me like Dennis Allen just didn't have an answer. No matter what he tried, it just looked like John Morton was a step ahead, and that's just the way I saw it.
I think that says it really well. I'm not sure if there is an answer to be found when your defensive backs get beat on quite literally, I think, every play of the game, with one exception, and that was that throw over the middle where Jalen Johnson made an incredible diving play to tip that ball so it redirected right in front of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And as it turns out, on that play, it appears as though Jalen Johnson ripped the groin off the bone and is going to be out for, if not the rest of the season, very close to it. So it was a very, very costly play for the Bears. And after that, I don't think a defensive back made a play the rest of the game.
That was tough. That was a tough part to watch. Was the defensive backfield, especially Jalen Johnson, and the fact that or Jalen Jones, that they didn't really have. an answer. I thought Nashawn Wright played really well in that first game. I mean, not just the pick. I just thought he was very sticky in coverage, but that was a tough group to go against. Just like the Bears group is a tough group to go against as far as their receiving core goes, but that was Big G's kind of nodding his head to that. But they do have a good receiving core. Odunze looked very, very good.
Amazing.
I think Elaine's going to name her firstborn Odunze. I think that was said.
That was my firstborn will now be named Odunze. Well, and didn't Goff name his kid? Is that true? Like Goff named
Odunze?
No, like Rome, right? No, was that a lie?
I'm not sure.
Is that a joke?
I'm not sure.
I don't
Big
know.
G, do we have any intel on that?
I don't right now, but if Jared Goff would have named his kid after anybody from the Chicago Bears, I'd fire him too. So.
I feel like Odunze just went in there and he just decided to, put the team on his back. That's how it felt yesterday.
Romy Isabel Goff.
Okay, so
there you go.
Look at that.
He was showing her what greatness can be with that name.
Well, but isn't the only context I have for Romy
and Michelle?
Yeah, isn't it that Lisa Kudrow movie, Romy and Michelle's high school reunion? That's a deep pull for me, Big G. I'm surprised that's rattling around in there. But so we've talked about peanut butter on hamburgers and Romy and Michelle's high school reunion here. So yeah, Romy. I haven't heard that name other than that. So you're thinking that's a shout out to Rome. It's just like the female version of Rome.
It has to be. That's. I mean, I know it's not it. Hold on, please, people, don't take this as like gospel.
We're talking about peanut butter and hamburgers. I don't think anybody's taking us too seriously this segment here.
I mean, it would have been nice if the quarterback did the same. I do have a question for you about the quarterbacks. I know everyone's totally overanalyzing Caleb Williams, but my concern last year, and even coming into the season, is that he is not good at on the fly kind of plays. And I felt like when Tyson came in, he was just able to hit guys even if they weren't maybe cutting their route completely. Like he was fine with on the fly mixing things up. I don't know if you saw that. I might have just been like extra over analyzing him, but I just wanted your opinion on that.
Yeah, I actually would probably push that the other way myself. I think Caleb's pretty good when those plays break down, which was essential last year because just about every play broke down. Thankfully, this is a strange place to feel. The offensive line did maybe okay yesterday. They certainly weren't good. And once it became pin your ears back and let it rip for the Lions pass rushers, it got ugly. But when the game was still in the balance, the offensive line did all right. And I thought Caleb did a pretty nice job delivering the ball out of the pocket and not running away when he maybe didn't have to, like he did a few times against Minnesota. The improvising wasn't as good yesterday. I would certainly agree with that. When he got out of the pocket, unfortunately, there was maybe a little more risk-taking and a little less playmaking.
Rob, question for you. On the interception to Kirby Joseph, do you think Caleb was trying to throw the ball away?
I think he was. Yeah, he talked about that one in his post-game presser. If you recall, Olamide Zaccheaus was about probably 6 or 8 yards short there, and it was that Zaccheaus had cut his route off. He was running something like a flag where he's running on an angle, and he then kind of turned it into a hard out, which is a little alarming because there were two Lions defenders in front of Zaccheaus, so if that's really what he was trying to do with that pass, he's probably going to get picked off. He certainly sailed it. But that pick, in the realm of interceptions, throwing an interception on 2nd and 32 that's 30 yards downfield, I'm not losing sleep over that one. Not a lot of good outcomes for that 3rd and 32 play after a throwaway on 2nd down.
Are you surprised that they're giving Zaccheaus more reps here? I actually like him. I liked him in Washington last year, and he strikes me as a Ben Johnson guy, but I know they have Burden kind of looming. I didn't see the snap count on that side of things after the game, but I feel like obviously you're making room for Burden eventually, but Zaccheaus seems like that veteran guy that they're favoring right now.
This is a much bigger answer, Ryan. Yes, I'm surprised Zaccheaus is getting so much run. On the whole, I think he's earning it. He's playing well, which is great. I wish Burden beat him out and was earning those reps. I wish Colston Loveland was a functional part of the offense. I wish Ozzie Trapillo and Shamar Turner were active on game day. That's 1 first-round pick and 3 second-round picks this year, and they combined yesterday, I believe, for 2 targets and 2 guys being inactive. That's really bad. It's really, really, really bad. The Bears are not a team where they're a finished product full of seasoned vets and the youngsters can't beat them out. These guys are not being a part of the game plan, and they're not being a part of the game plan at the expense of guys like Olamide Zaccheaus that were available on just a tick over veteran minimum contracts. That's got to be a 5-alarm fire in the building.
Big G was Johnny on the spot. Zaccheaus had 30 snaps and Burden had 12.
Yeah.
But with Trapillo, didn't he pick up an injury in camp? I thought that's why he was not necessarily in the rotation here.
Trapillo's been healthy. He just got beat out, which is fine. He was a decent right tackle in college, and it's the one spot on the line that the Bears had locked in before the offseason. Kind of makes it a strange pick in the second round. But Shamar Turner, the defensive tackle, he was injured in camp for a chunk of time and for most of the summer. And so I think there's enough comfort saying Turner not getting on the field, you can write it off to the injury. That's okay. If the Bears were getting production from the defensive tackle spot, it'd be even easier to take. But they're not. As I'm sure you were aware of watching that game yesterday.
Well, I want to pick up, we're going to take a quick break, but you gave me a good tease here, good transition, because we talked about this last week. I want to talk about it in the next segment. It's how we'll transition to college football. But I'm with you. I'm not a Penn State guy, but I'm with you on the whole Warren versus Loveland thing. So I'm curious about your thoughts on that after the break, and then we'll talk a little college football here and put the Bears fans out of their misery for this particular segment. So stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Coming back here with Rob Huff of Huff on Sports, and he does cover multiple sports teams here. He knows a lot about the Bears, as you can tell from the last segment and the segments last week and his other appearances on the show. But he also does a great job covering Penn State. He's a big Penn State guy. They're poised for a big year. And I do want to talk to you about the Tyler Warren thing, not to jam it into you, but I just don't understand the fact. We were talking about this for the draft last year, that before Ben Johnson moved, we were talking about, man, that would be perfect for the Lions. Tyler Warren, it wouldn't fit because they've got Laporta and they've got Wright, but that's a Ben Johnson tight end. Then he goes to the Bears. He has a chance to take a tight end. Running back's not an option, and they took Loveland. I think that was the surprise of the draft for me, anyway.
That was certainly the disappointment of the draft for me. And by the time we got to draft day, it seemed like there was a decent chance that they were more interested in Loveland than Warren. Obviously, you never know how the board's going to break. It's hard to wrap your mind around, because Warren was certainly enough of an athlete, but you already had proof of concept for so much more beyond that. He could impact the game in just about every way an offensive player can. And the Bears desperately need playmakers, way more than they need somebody who can fit into a particular spot on the board. They just need somebody who can come in and change the game and make that big play on 3rd and 1. And whether it is by taking an end around, or if it's by doing a shovel pass, or if it is in fact just going under center and taking the ball in your hands and making the play, that's great. You guys might remember the Bears tried 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 QB sneaks yesterday with their 6'1", 210-pound quarterback, and it wasn't pretty. If you got a 6'5", 250-pound tight end who's used to taking snaps, you feel a lot better about your odds of picking that kind of thing up. So it's been tough to watch Warren as a Bears fan. It's been a delight to watch Warren just seamlessly fit right into the core of that Colts offense and make a lot of plays for a pretty surprising 2-0 team.
That's what I was just going to say. They're one of the surprises. They've got the Daniel Jones thing, a castaway from the Giants, the Vikings, and now they add Warren, and that's kind of an underrated receiving core. But yeah, he's fit in well, and it really improved their situation there. So I it's nothing against Loveland, and I'm sure the people in the Michigan fan base that are listening to the show right now are saying, well, yeah, a lot of the positives that you were kind of highlighting for Loveland. It's nothing against him. I just thought Warren seemed like a good fit, especially for a Ben Johnson offense, as I understand it. But I'm curious about your thoughts. So you're always tempered, where we were trying to lift you up on the Bears, but I'm curious what you think on Penn State, because a lot of people think this is their year here. I'm very interested in the Big Ten as a whole, because they have a lot of good, surprising teams in my estimation, but Penn State's not one of them. They're a good one for sure, a great one, but not a surprising team. They're supposed to be at the top, but I'm curious what you think their prospects are this year.
Well, it's a strange situation for Penn State football right now, where everybody has made the same comparisons that you would to the 2023 and 2024 Michigan and Ohio State teams respectively, where a lot of guys came back. A ton of guys eschewed the NFL and said, we're coming back to win a championship. And yeah, you can get paid in college now, but that's not the point. The point is, we're trying to win a title, and we feel like we just missed it last year. The one hiccup I have, and it's maybe a pretty significant one, Penn State still hasn't beat anybody better than them for the last 3 years. And what has otherwise really been kind of a golden era of Penn State football here, they're still losing every time they play somebody who's got even comparable talent. And they had a great showing against Oregon last year in the Big Ten championship game, played them really tough, even playing on the fast turf down there in Indianapolis. They played Notre Dame pretty darn even in the Orange Bowl. A couple hiccups here and there, but a couple big plays here and there. But they still lost. And so the playoff path was beat everybody that you outclass in terms of talent, and then get a really tasty draw against SMU and Boise State. That's great. But when you played Ohio State, you still lost. And when you played Oregon, you still lost. And when you played Notre Dame, you still lost. And so my general thought here is, much like it is with the Bears, just in a very different tier, I'll believe it when I see it. You got to beat somebody that's that level of talent, that is a true comparable talent. And they get the whiteout in 12 days to do it. They get to bring Oregon across the country. They get the night game. They get their showcase event at the end of September. That's the game. More so than winning the Big Ten, that's the game where James Franklin and this group have to actually beat somebody with a comparable level of on-field talent.
That'll be a big one. I'm curious about this Big Ten as a whole, or Big 18 as I spell it when I spell it on X. But I'm an Indiana guy. I find Michigan State intriguing. We cover them a lot for the show, and they are giving me, maybe not entirely, but kind of Indiana vibes from last year. This year's Indiana team, it seems like we forgot what they did last year, and some people discredited it. They seem like they might be decent again this year. That quarterback that they got is the real deal. He's a bigger recruit as far as a transfer goes than Rourke was. And I'm not saying he's going to be better, but they retained a decent amount of players too. So I think the Big Ten is going to be really strong this year, just across the board. And obviously Penn State's at the top of that. So I'm hoping that they can pull out that game and stay on top till the end, because it'd be nice to throw as many Big Ten teams into that playoff as we can here.
Absolutely. And I think what you're going to end up seeing from Penn State this year is going to be a team that really tries to turn it on in a way that they haven't had to in prior years. Their opening game the last 4 seasons, they opened at Wisconsin in 2021, they opened at Purdue in 2022, and then they had a home-and-home with West Virginia in 23 and 24. West Virginia was down a little last year, but in 23 they won 9 games and ended up as a ranked foe. So they've started consistently with a really tough game. The ball gets rolling right away. The team really gets into their groove. This year it was Nevada, Florida International, and then Villanova. And Michigan fans have seen this in recent years before this year. Ohio State has done this a couple times, where you just sleepwalk through September, because what do you learn about your team when they play Villanova? You learn that Villanova is a pretty darn solid FCS team, and that's it. You don't learn anything else. And so this is going to be just an absolute monster jump where they have to flip the switch. The talent's there. The talent has consistently been there. Drew Aller has to perform. He has to make plays in a big game against a good team. He absolutely did not last year when they needed him the most. This is it. This is his senior year. This is, I think, game number 44 in his career and start number 34. Might be off by one on those numbers, but you're not going to find a more experienced collegiate quarterback now that Dylan Gabriel's in the NFL. This is it. You don't get to have a guy play 44 games in college before he actually wins one of these games. It's time. He's just got to do it. So there's a chance. It certainly could happen. I'd feel pretty good if I was Oregon, because I think Oregon's got a more talented roster on the whole, which is scary to me. And there's no real downside for them. If they lose, well, they had to travel 2,000 miles and play a night game in a hostile environment against a top 3 team. You're not supposed to win that game. If Penn State loses, there's going to be a lot of hand-wringing, and there's going to be a continued discussion of, there's a real elite tier in the Big Ten, and it's Ohio State and Oregon, and then there's a next tier, and that next tier is Penn State, and who's going to be there with them? Is it Illinois? Is it Indiana? Is it Michigan? There's potentially a lot of teams that could work their way into that same tier, even if Penn State's got more talent. The production's not there yet.
You bring up a good point, because that was something we were following on the show last season with the first year, and I don't imagine it getting that much better for the second year, because it's a hard thing to train for or plan for. But the whole traveling, the time zones, and working that out with now the expanded Big Ten, that is an issue. So Oregon coming in, the score against the line was crazy last year for the team that had to travel to the other time zones here and travel across the country. They underperformed, and you don't really wonder why. That stuff factors in to a lot of this that we don't necessarily see. It was easier to see in the Big Ten last year because of how spread out they are. But I've got big hopes here for Penn State and some of the other teams. We're going to see a lot over the next couple weeks here, because we got some big matchups. You mentioned Illinois and Indiana; they match up. Got Penn State and Oregon. So now we're going to start to see some competitive Big Ten play. But we appreciate you coming on. We're glad that you're feeling pretty good. I feel like you're feeling good. We talked some Penn State, and we talked about that other team, and so we're happy you came on. Tell people about where to follow you and stuff here, and we'll look forward to having you on for your next appearance.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. Yep, huffonsports.blogspot.com. Hopefully there will be some positive Bears or Nittany Lions thoughts to share here again before September is done. I'm going to squeeze in 2 last quick closing thoughts for you, Ryan. One of them is, I think if this Indiana team looks considerably better than last year's team, the schedule looks tougher too. And so I don't know what that means for where they end up, but they look like a darn good football team. And the last little nugget here, and this is hope for Bears fans. I think there's a chance the game on Sunday ends up looking like an Arena League team. When the Rampage made their run to the Arena Bowl, remember the going line in Arena League football was 3 stops. You get 3 stops on defense, you win the game. There's a chance that this Bears-Cowboys game goes that same way. If you can get 3 stops, you can win the game.
Okay, now you've perked Elaine up. You've perked me up with the Indiana part, and I want to bring back Adrian McPherson. Do you remember him from the Rampage?
Boy. Oh, that's a deep pull.
Well, I played basketball with him, and he was just a tremendous athlete and nice guy on top of it. But he was the quarterback. I played with a lot of those Rampage guys back in the day, and they were a lot of fun to play with. So Adrian McPherson, he was like one of the original kind of like skill traits guys in the new age quarterback, but he was like a little ahead, and then he had an issue where I think he got struck by a golf cart or something on a sideline. Interesting story for him. But yeah, Elaine's feeling good now about the Bears. She's going to be looking out for the track meet. I'm feeling good about Indiana. Do you have any words for Big G? Can you pump up Big G at all? He looks kind of pumped.
What does Big G need to hear? Where does he need a little inflation?
If you looked at me, you'd see I'm inflated enough. But
oh, jeez.
I didn't expect it to go there, but do you feel?
I know what he needs to hear. Big G, when you get out of here tonight, go get some GIFs, go get a burger, make some magic happen.
There you go, Big G. Oh, somebody's gonna be fired again. That was a great start to the segment. I loved that so much.
First off, I'll say, Rob, well played. Second of all, I'm sorry we only put 52 on you.
Oh. Why do I have to catch the stray?
Yeah. And now Elaine's got to sit here for the next hour and 10 minutes here.
Weep in the corner.
Oh, now we brought it all down.
Easier to flush a blowout loss than it was to flush last Monday's loss. I will say that from my perspective.
Yeah, you were more dejected after that one, texting me here. Yeah, and the matchup could be very different when they match up again. I'm well aware of that with the Lions and the Bears, and we'll have you on to talk about it here. So we're looking forward to having you back on and go Penn State here in a couple weeks. And I hope the non-Lions games go well for the Bears here, just so we can lift everybody up.
Much appreciated. Thanks, Ryan. Great to talk to you.
All right, you too. We'll talk to you later.
Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh is brought to you by Mary Freebed, Collectible Insurance Services, West Michigan Eye Care Associates, Eric Hall, DDS, Calder Financial Group, Grand Management, Rydan Investments, JH Realty Partners, and Encore Business Group. Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh airs live Monday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern on Jethro.fm.
Stay informed and stay vigilant.